proceed. I too am glad to be able to speak here this evening, and I welcome, and in fact, Deputy O'Sullivan's and Deputy Ball's support, because this is crisis for Ireland, for all of Ireland except the Dublin Century Group. None of them are here. Your leader, your wonderful leader, and your other ministers that care nothing about outside the red cow, and Minister Humphreys, and your mentor, the late Simon Crawford. If he's here today, I don't know what he'd say to you. God rest him, because he wouldn't have anything to do with this deal. He fought out his life in ANFA and IFA, you know that, and Minister Creed and your fellow before you who was a member here. This is outrageous. This is a sellout. And what do we expect from Big Phil, the destroyer, the enforcer, who ran right in this country when he was here, and now he's running it in Europe, and you have the cheek to appoint him again. Jobs for the boys. But I tell you something, you saw those beef plant farmers today. We met the IFA yesterday. Tomorrow we have hill and sheep breeders coming up here, and they'll tear you out of government because they're sick and tired of you. You have walked on the people of rural Ireland. You've walked on the little people. That's all you care about is the banks, Larry Goodman, big business, the big deals with McCourt now for broadband. Anything that's big and gives plenty of money to you and support you, and to help the little people. But you never were any different in Fine Gael. You had no interest in the small farmers. You had the fellas with the boreens and the avenues with the winding and the daffodils and the big trees. But by God, you'll be hiding under some trees or up the trees because the people are sick and tired of you. And to hell out the conduct, it'll be the hell out the conduct for Fine Gael if you back this deal. And my lads here inside as well, who backed Lisbon twice, big a fool I was in the Fianna Fáil party at the time as well. That was the start of it. A sellout of our people, sellout of the Valera's party, sellout of the War of Independence. Europe is all good for us, and we're told what's good for us. We're saying Leo then negotiating the backstop. He had a secure deal nearly a year and a half ago. Where's it now? Bruce! Brishlock, Tasha Yamaha, and here you had, you put all your spite in it, and this deal was going through all the time, and you knew it. And we went to Tweedledum or Tweedledee going out to Europe to save us. Vote against this now, send a signal to Europe and the rest of the world that we're not having this. We'll stand for our people before the people have to come in here and tear you out. We had vermin inside and past this building yesterday. What you do to the people is nearly as bad. You don't care about them, and you just are destroying them across the road, the banks, of course, you're embedded them as well, so shame on you.
Next. Yeah, thank you, Deputy Marty.
Councillor, I too want to support Amendment 1, and indeed I want to appeal again to the Minister, but I know it will fall on deaf ears, that the time for this is just a disgraceful effort to guillotine a bill of this nature through here tonight. And how he can do this when he's pronounced his name as an opposition, his attendance at leaders' meetings, the Deputy Barrett attended and others as well, and Deputy Nocton, and his questioning of the line from Dr. Holohan at that stage, and the advice and what was happening, and then to do such an about U-turn, it just beggars belief. But this legislation is unworkable, and at least if it was banished at October, we'd have some chance, but we're playing the semantics really, because I think, when October comes, there'll be another lockdown, and then we'll be into a scenario all over again. So the people have grown weary, tired and fatigued, and COVID fatigued, and media fatigued, and Dr. Holohan fatigued. I see a post this evening where he's out again on the media, telling people not to bring their children to indoors dining in spite of passing these rules. So what is going on? Is it a game of, I know we've 3 leaders here, but 2 of them are certainly vying for the top job, but is it Dr. Holohan and Neffert vying for that as well, and trying to scare the people? What is going on? Is it actually a death wish on hospitality? And is there a death wish on all of our people that we can't be entertained or can't dine, or we can't, the musicians are confined to history. So, I mean, it's shocking. We're here debating this rushed, inept, feeble, draconian, disastrous legislation. And he's out in the airwaves, Dr. Holohan, saying other stuff. Now remember, excuse me, I'm talking to the chair. I was just wondering what's going on, because the people are sick and weary of it. And this is not the first time. I can go back to the Oireachtas aluminum plant and a Gaegan family down in Limerick, and they had issues with Mr. Holohan and now Taoiseach Martin. No public inquiry went on there. The cervical smear test and many other things. And now we're like, what's going on? The mind game's being played here. I just got a tweet sent to me of his statement this evening. So it's irrelevant to what we're doing in this house, because Neffert are in charge. We've abdicated our responsibility to Neffert and Nayak, and God knows what other Quango. And God knows, in this legislation, Minister will have the power to introduce, and he wants to, in statutory instruments. And he dreams up anything he dreams up of, we can put it in. And the worry I have is, as I said, there's 300 HSE staff, we're told, and there's 70 HSA staff to police this, and of course the Garda Síochána, and whomsoever, whatever organisation or outfit or cabal that the minister might dream of and put into the statutory and give them the badge and off you go, like the sheriffs, like the posse. And of course, someone said today they probably only work from 9 to 5. They won't give them overtime. But I'm sure someone will be very zealous to catch people and get stripes. This is silly, pedantic, just pure nonsense. And you know that, Minister, because you were the exact opposite. And you admitted here in this chamber a couple of months ago that we were right in what we were saying, that you'd be saying the same thing if you were here. You said that yourself. You're on the record of saying that here in the House. So how you can say that? Have your position at that time, didn't say that even when you were Minister, that if you were where we were, you'd be talking what we were saying, or saying what we were saying. So what, as I asked earlier, what happens when you go into government? What big power comes over you that makes your hand sign all these things and changes you so much overnight? From being a questioning, responsible, engaging, and we all did engage first at all those meetings, and we backed every decision the government took because we were all worried and frightened of what might happen. But when we saw the figures didn't stack up anywhere, and when we saw the damage done to our health services, the damage done to mental health, the damage done to cancer smear, late diagnosis, misdiagnosis, and a plethora of other things, scoliosis, you name it. You can't get near a hospital or near a doctor. You can't. It's just beggars belief. And after the 15, 16 months, you still haven't, I think it's 9 extra ICU beds, with the 4 or 5 billion that has been spent extra on top of this 19 billion that was there. 9 extra beds. So we keep locking down the country because of inadequate HSE and health service, and we'll keep crucifying, literally, the small business and all the tens of thousands of jobs in all the sectors. Because if we keep this going on much longer, we won't have an economy to recover. And we will then, and you might say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but be beholding to some greater power, that they'll be in charge. They'll be in charge, and they'll be whatever will crumbs from their table. So this is just mad, and more mad by the week going on here. And this bill being rushed like this, we put down I think 11 or 12 amendments, the Rural Independent Group, not one of them taken. And at least this was taken, Minister. I mean, people might give some hope that we're not into this for the real long haul, that you have the ability again when October comes and you'll extend it for another 3 months, just as a matter of form. And, maybe come in here to the House, but you have your majority, you have your 3 parties, and you have some regional independents who are going to back you come hell or high water. Whether they expect to fall into government when the Greens leave or whatever, I don't know what it is, but they're a naughty as well. But I say again, and I'll finish this, Councillor, we had a great celebration last Sunday in Dublin Castle. I didn't attend, in principle. How could we celebrate our Patriot Day? And at the same time, for getting our freedom, the freedoms that we boast about and we enjoy, and thankfully we've enjoyed for nearly 100 years. At the same time, legislation was being drafted, draconian, penal legislation, medical apartheid, and legislation. In some other office, the AGs and his staff, I'm not naming the AG personally, the staff that drafting people, and you were down celebrating that. What hypocrisy! What rank hypocrisy and sheer brass neck, and my God, to a new level, to have that going on side by side. And we're here 4 days later, taking away any rights that people have. Expect to have people declare their medical history to get into hospitality. When, as Deputy Naughton said, they can go into the cinema and get their Coke and popcorn or whatever, and there's no passport. So most of the cinema chains now are very big as well. So it's all about big business. And all the small, homegrown, one-man family business destroying. And the workers in those jobs are going to be forced into work when they can't get a vaccine. And then if they want to have a social drink later on in the evening or whatever, and they finish the shift, they can't. They must go out in the street and have it. It's utter and patent nonsense. And you should be ashamed to have anything to do with it. Not to mind to say signing this. And whatever, you might give us some, you won't give us any insight into what statutory instruments you might sign. But I'd say they'll be interesting, because we won't be here 6 or 7 weeks, and there'll be no account to anybody, not as much account anyway. As I said, the power has been wrestled from, we moved from the Dáil down here, but the power has been wrestled from us, not been wrestled, it's been given away by the government, by the Taoiseach and others, to give them to unelected cabals. Unelected cabals. Some people in their own right are good in there, certainly, but when you can't answer them, when I questioned Dr. Houlihan about the science in the Cabinet Home, some of my colleagues, some of you were here at party groups, about the science around the closure of churches and the restriction of numbers. When I had asked the third time, the teacher said, will you answer him, Dr. Houlihan? And the answer I got was, listen, Deputy, we're dealing with a pandemic. We do the lockdown and we'll do the science later. I threw my hat at it. I wasn't invited, or none of the party leaders, to my knowledge, were invited to any briefing ever since. That was early November last year. So you've lost the public, you've lost the opposition groups because we see the vote tonight, and you've lost because you didn't continue with the briefing and informing us. When we started to ask questions, when the fear lifted, and the fog lifted, and we wiped the glasses and tried to think, put on the cap, and what's happening here? Is this really what's happened, or is this a merry dance? And I'm not making little of anyone that died. And I also want a public inquiry, not in Ireland, but from people from abroad, into the slaughter that went on in the nursing homes and the people got affected in the hospital. Not blaming the frontline staff, I'm blaming bad management, I'm blaming the fact that PPE couldn't be got for the nursing homes. Oxygen was seconded en route to nursing home and was diverted away from the nursing homes. If someone doesn't have to go to The Hague and face war crimes against humanity for that, I give up. It's a shocking indictment of what happened. And now if we have another pandemic of any kind, we have 9 extra ICU beds after all the money. You should be proud of yourself, Minister. 9 extra ICU beds after the 4 billion extra, plus the 4 billion we know about. We have no idea. Deputy Connolly saw trying to elicit answers yesterday about the costs of the vaccination and the costs of the different procurement process. There's been no procurement process since COVID started. Just spend whatever, just do it. No accountability. People rang me up to know where places where they were asked to do work there for the HSE. Just get it done. Work night, day doesn't matter. Price doesn't matter. To caution to the wind. And if we had a huge lot of extra capacity, I'd say great. If we had a field hospital built somewhere, they could build a hospital in China in was it a week or 2 weeks? We had 9 extra beds to our credit for 4 billion. 9 extra ICU beds for 4 billion. Then, of course, we had thousands of people who offered the call for Ireland, offered services free of charge and came home from abroad to offer. And very limited, I think a couple of hundred, the figures I got a few last, were taken on. People gave that spirit of the metals and the called like Hela and all that, and they wanted to help. And just the people, everyone got motivated and did their bit. We're all in this together. That's a long way away from it now. So there's a few in it. And I have to ask the question again, Deputy Healy raised it earlier, Danny. Why are you so against antigen testing? Is there some people involved in the system now, or close to that, have a vested interest in the CPR, the other test? The name is gone from me now, but you know the test that we're all doing. Everyone is doing. So antigen, no. Every other country in Europe and all over the world are using the antigen test. We're talking about it. We're setting up an expert group now to do the tests, to maybe look at it. 16 months on. I asked you yesterday in a Dáil question about would we have an investigation? You were telling me there's 3 or 4 investigations going on in different aspects of the HSE. I don't want that. I want an outside of this country with no connections with the HSE or the Department of Health, independent inquiry as to how the government and their advisors and effort and the HSE and the Department of Health have handled this crisis. Nothing else will satisfy, because we have enough of cover-ups, enough of lack of inquiries, enough of refusals. I said to the Gregan family when their blood samples got lost and Dr. Houlihan refused to allow a public inquiry. Sitting beside him that day was Minister for Health, Micheál Martin. That's a long time ago, 203. So there's a lot of cover-up in those 40 years almost, 30 years. Cover-up after cover-up. Cover-up after cover-up. That's what we get here. And this is the biggest cover-up of all. So I'm asking you, I know you won't do it, but hopefully someday someone will appoint an inquiry that will get answers and get honesty and restore the integrity and respect that the people had for our public services. Cormac.
Ministers at the end. The next is a question from the Rural Independent Group.
Yes. My question is, Minister, do you and your colleagues, Minister Donohoe and An Taoiseach, respect and value our nurses? Simple question.
Okay,
and
thank you.
I have a number of questions. Sorry.
I think you had a question.
Kate Cash, Tá Cash Telegram. Minister and Ministers, now Harry, I'll call you. Harry, you've spent 1 million on communication, on a PR firm to cover up the debacle, the black hole out in Children's Hospital. You spent 80 million on consultants to design that mess. And where's the accountability? Are you going to hold anyone in the Department of HSE or Department of Health to account? We have the resignation of the chair of the board. But is anyone going to be held?
Hold on. This is about the nurses.
About money. They have money for this.
Listen,
they have money for. If you go to the shop, you can't buy. No, excuse me.
It's about the nurses.
If you go to the shop with no money in your pocket, you get no groceries. They haven't money to pay the nurses, but they have money for everything else.
You're here long enough to know. Ask a relevant question.
That's relevant. It's not about money. How more relevant can it be? What's wrong with you, Lescan Cola? It's totally relevant. They have money for the nurses, they have money for the ordinary services, the elderly or whatever, but they have money for everything else, to throw it at consultants, to throw it at design people, to design teams. I'm asking him, will he not get into proper, meaningful negotiations? I'm not finished, excuse me, we're sharing time. We're sharing time.
Hold on a minute.
We're sharing time. I have 2.5 minutes.
Deputies, I think I've been fair to everybody in the House this day.
We're sharing time.
Well, if I haven't been fair to you, you can deal with it and I'll deal with it. You're trying to abuse the position. I'm not going to accept that from you. You must ask relevant questions.
It's all about money.
It's about nurses. Deputy Danny Healy-Rae, or you won't get in.
Will he enter into negotiations immediately with
you could put that in another way.
Without preconditions.
Deputy Healy-Rae, don't make accusations against the chair, because I will deal with you in another forum.
Yeah, but correct.
Deputy.
I had 2 minutes to ask my question.
You don't.
I had.
Minister to answer. Listen, let's be orderly. Our House has been very orderly and very dignified all day. And don't abuse your position.
Minister, how can you explain to the people of Ireland that you have money for a rainy day fund, but you don't have money to pay the nurses? Please explain that to the people of Ireland, will you?
Minister.
Thank you.
I'm trying to save time.
Lescan Corla. Deputy McGrath made the absolutely ridiculous assertion that there's no money available. Deputy, this year alone, the health services will be receiving €17 billion of taxpayers' money to support the development and delivery of services in our country.
Sorry, just 1 second, Minister. Just 1 second. We may be time. What accusation are you making?
There's been my time. I had 2.5 minutes between us.
Listen, you've made another one under your breath, and if you want to repeat it, you can repeat it.
In writing.
You don't have to. You can do it outside the House if you wish, and I'll deal with you elsewhere.
This is the House. I had
Deputy.
Shut up. I was including my colleague here and that, and you were wasting our time.
I'm not wasting your time. And you're the wrong one to be talking about wasting time in this House.
You're wasting the time.
Minister, my apologies. You're what?
You're covering up the minister now. He's not answering.
I want you to withdraw that statement. I'm asking you to withdraw that statement. I'm asking you to withdraw the statement that I'm covering up.
You are wasting time.
You've made a statement. You've made a statement that I'm covering up for any minister. I'm not covering up for any minister, or never had. I want to say to this House, I've always been fair and impartial to everybody in this House. And I have no doubt, and I'm asking you, given your last chance to withdraw the statement that I'm covering up, or we'll deal with it. Minister.
You're in bed with
Sorry, what did you say?
I said you're in bed with the government, so
don't you, listen. There's no point trying to slide out of it. I'll take note of it. Minister.
Thank you. As I said,
my apologies to the rest of the House, but I have a duty to defend the chair, not Pat the Cope Gallagher TD. I'll defend this chair and the rights of the members of this House as long as I'm here. Minister.
As I was saying in response to Deputy McGrath, €17 billion of the taxpayers' money deservedly going in to the provision and trying to improve services that are available in our health service, of which at least a quarter goes into the wages of those who provide care in our country. In relation to your question there, do we respect the nurses and the contribution they made? Of course we do. And it's insulting to suggest anything else from any member of this government. But of course the challenge we have, Deputy McGrath, which of course you have no interest in acknowledging, is we have many other public servants whose work we also respect. In fact, we have over 290,000 of them. And if we make any one movement in this wage agreement for one group, it has immediate consequences for every other group, which of course is something that you have no interest in acknowledging. Do I know you understand it? In terms of the question that was put to me there by Deputy Healy-Rae, Why are we putting money into a rainy day fund? And of course I can understand why many would ask that question, given the pressures that we always have for today. The simple question for that, Deputy, is that when we get into another difficulty at a point in the future, as will happen because we are an open economy and there's a huge amount happening in the world at the moment, as you well know, the debt levels that we have from emerging from the last crisis are far, far higher for our country than when we went into the difficulty we're trying to put behind us. And if we don't have some reserves available to deal for whatever shock the rest of the world might throw at Ireland, our difficulties will be even greater. But I understand that's a tough argument to make, because saying we need to be better prepared for the future when we have challenges for today, I accept it's a difficult argument to make, but it is still the right one for our country in the long run.
The rural independent slot is up now. Deputy Catherine Martin. Question.
Good. Last time caller. Oakland and the Commission for Fair Falls Road, would he talk line enough? You're very welcome, Madam President, and thanks for your address, and thanks for your acknowledgement of the benefits that Europe had to Ireland, and more importantly, the benefits that we brought and gave and delivered to the European project. On the 6th of December 1922, 100 years ago, the Irish state officially came into existence. This monumental achievement was a result of a huge sacrifice by generations of our ancestors, so that we as a nation would be at least partially free, sovereign and indeed independent. 51 years later, in 1973, our nation joined the EEC. I can remember campaigning for it. We joined to work in union with our friends and neighbours in fellow European countries. We had great hopes, and the people welcomed and indeed voted for it. However, since then, through various treaties, from Maastricht to Amsterdam to Nice and to Lisbon, which we had to vote twice for, imagine the first result wasn't accepted, we have seen much transfer of decision-making, which traditionally rests with sovereign countries, to the EU Commission. And we have issues of concerns about the militarisation. We have concerns about the huge privatisation. I certainly have concerns that many people have with the way we handled the COVID. And the fact that you were discussing COVID passports in 2012 and 13 and 14, long before COVID reached our shores. And I'm concerned that the way that Big Pharma have been indemnified, and the way that they were favoured and got favouritism, and the way people were locked down and imprisoned, and the fear that was created. And the narrative couldn't be questioned by anybody in any country. And goodness, we see that today in China and elsewhere. So I have those concerns, and I want to espouse them here to you today. As I said, nation states like ours seem to have handed over our sovereignty to the EU. The erosion of our sovereignty is greatly concerning to the citizens of Ireland. This loss of sovereignty is the reason that our fishing industry has been unceremoniously wiped out, sold out by our own government. The latest scandal announces that a third of our fishermen are being forced to decommission their boats permanently. Shocking. I remember a thriving beet industry in Ireland, in my own county in Tipperary, in Tullis, and every small farmer, most of them had beet, and we lost our beet industry. Just again sold out. This loss of sovereignty is the reason why our manufacturing is which took place in every town and village and literally hamlet in rural Ireland, and now it's Tarshima is gone, and small business thrived then, but now it's so difficult for small business. It's so cumbersome, and it's just our officials and our governments come back from Europe, oh, it's European diktat. But I don't know that they even question it. Sometimes we haven't even applied for funds to support some of our ailing business and failing and struggling businesses. And that's the fact of the matter. And people are aghast at this, because the Lecorna is very important to the Irish and the sense of the Mehel, but it's not been there. This loss of sovereignty is the reason that our government tells farmers that they must reduce their herd size, while at the same time the EU that you lead wants to import more beef from Brazil and elsewhere. It's an act of madness. It's very disquieting. It's unfair, and it's downright wrong to our farmers who farming is such an important part of our country and sustained us through several recessions. This loss, as I said, this loss of sovereignty is the reason why we're forced to bail out the euro currency, paying the debts of privately owned banks and financial speculators. In fact, we paid 42% of the total European banking costs, costing 9,000 to every fair man, every man, woman and child had to pay and will be paying and are paying. And all these bankers and investors, many from your own country, had bonds and had insurance, but we were made the patsies to pay them. And our government here voted for it. And I voted for the biggest political mistake I ever made in my life. But did I vote for the bailout? No, I did not. Because the IMF gave us money less than 3%, and our so-called friends in Europe charged us 6% interest on the money. That is some friendship that we voted for and we asked for. I ask you today, Madam President, what is the end goal of the European Union in terms of member states' sovereignty? And I ask you that in all sincerity. Will you, as President of the European Commission, guarantee today to the Irish people that Ireland will remain the free and sovereign country that our ancestors fought so bravely for to achieve? And I come from Tipperary, land of Breen, Tracy, Robinson and Dinny Lacey, who gave their life, and Liam Lynch, Corkman and Limerick men were shot in my own adjoining parish. And we commemorate those people with pride, but here we're undermining what they fought for on a daily basis. So, Mr. Blenderveen, I don't know if you knew of Thomas Davis. You did quote some at the late John Hume, and rightly so, wonderful European and Irishman. But Thomas Davis was a man who championed Irish sovereignty. He wrote a famous song. In it, he expressed the hope that Ireland, long a province, be a nation once again. The words have been inspired many generations of Irish people, young and old. And I ask you now, does the EU today want to make our nation a province once again? And I ask you that in all sincerity. So I want to say, look, that we have been, you talk about climate change and the just transition. There is no just transition for people who have been forced to shut down their industries, for people who have been forced and not allowed to keep heat and warmth. You mentioned that we're a beacon of light. Yes, we were, and are. But the candle and the flame is quenched in many homes and houses. It's quenched. And the homeless, and our health care and our situation, and we welcome so many Europeans from that Ukrainians, that horrible war. But we just have limits to what we can do as regards migration from all other countries. And some countries I know in Europe have ceased and have put a pause, and we have to cut our cloth according to measure. The Island of 1,000 welcomes, yes, of course, and you're welcome today. But we need to be respected for who we are, what our people are, and our sovereignty. That's Concola and Kate O'Cheese. I'd like to wish you, Concola, and every member of this House a happy, holy and a peaceful Christmas. I'd remind this, if it was later in the evening and we were down the round room or somewhere, I'd say this is more like Lanigan's ball. I stepped out and you stepped in again, and I stepped out and we had Lanigan's ball. But the people of Ireland have questions they want answered. I've spoken here on many occasions and mentioned powerful globalist forces who are having a huge impact on the way our country is being run. Probably the most powerful of all these globalist organisations is the World Economic Forum, or WEF as it's known, which are based in Geneva, Switzerland, and which is fronted by an individual named Klaus Schwab. This man, Mr. Schwab, has written many controversial books about how he believes the world should be governed, including the Fourth Industrial Revolution, stakeholder capitalism, and COVID-19, the Great Reset. Could I get some silence, please? He has written and spoken openly about what he calls the Great Reset. He describes it as an opportunity to reset our world, to create a healthier and more equitable and more prosperous Europe and a future. This sounds fantastic initially, but on closer examination of this cabal, which I call him, it's strange. One of his most famous quotes from 2016 gives us a little insight. He says, and I quote, "By 2030 you will own nothing and be happy about it." He also quoted as saying, "The sovereign state has become obsolete." I remember some of you, two top people here, saying this about our sovereignty recently as well. He speaks about a system called stakeholder capitalism, which he and the WEF see as a replacement for the current financial system, shareholder capitalism. This system is quoted on the WEF website, is one of is one where governments, business and individuals collaborate. It is a system which would see corporations, wealthy, powerful elites and citizens being given equal take in the running of their countries. This sounds very like the same what was Italian fascist dictator Mussolini described as corporate state. In fact, this sounds the very same as Mussolini's very definition of fascism, when he said, and I quote, "Fascism is equal to corporationism because it's a merger of state and corporate power." This all might sound like some sort of conspiracy, and I wish it was, but it is not. For my good. All right, we'll see who will have the last laugh. God, Santi might come to you. Right. It's not, thank God, no. Thank God. If I could, with your permission, Councillor Crowder. There's certain things we can't discuss in this chamber anymore because you're shouted down. We know that. This is all my, as I said, we have several books from Mr. Schwab, and I will quote again from Mr. Schwab at the end of from the World Economic Forum, where he says he's very proud of most of these young generation, the Prime Minister of Trudeau and President of Argentina, and so on. It is that when he also, and I quote him, is that we penetrated the cabinets. And yesterday, and this is from his quote in 2016, I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I would know that half of his cabinet, or even more than half of the cabinet, are actually young global leaders and the World Economic Forum. Now, Taoiseach, this brings me to the nub of the question, now Taoiseach-elect. Taoiseach, thank you. Well, yeah, well, okay, funny. You're one and the same. I said I stepped out and you stepped in again. If it's going, it's on the government website right now. If anyone wants to look it up, you will see that the website is being touted as the WEF's Young Global Leaders. And can you explain to me and to the people of Ireland, if not people here don't want to hear it, why are you a young globalist leader of the organisation which is obviously looking to destroy the power of the people and destroying our democracy? And you're listed on that, and it's just funny, all right. Why are you a young globalist leader of an organisation that sets out to take and destroy our sovereignty and sovereignty of other countries as well? And can you explain to the Irish people how your position as Taoiseach will endure and how it doesn't present a conflict of interest? Because I believe it does. And can I tell you that the Irish people and individuals are very, very worried about this. You mightn't want to know about it, but they are worried about it. And it's WEF members or any other supporters. I did speak to one of your ministers to be today during the week, and he told me it was a great organisation. There was nothing wrong with it. So I rest my case just to point out that I will not be voting for you as Taoiseach today.